So we see that developing the queen to c7 doesn't work because of either a trap that black can fall into or a better position for white if black spots the trap on time. But most strong players will spot the trap and see the danger with the half-open c-file. So some players may choose to develop queen to a5 instead, again creating an attack on the backward c-pawn. Now white should continue play, again with pawn to f4, forcing the bishop back with the same attacking possibilities for white. But black can capture the pawn on c3 with his own bishop and even create a battery on the knight on d2. So there's no longer a point of developing the rook to c1 because there's nothing really to pin on it. But white has another tactic here, so he can instead develop his own knight to b3 to chase away the queen which is needed to protect the bishop on c3. And there are two possibilities for black. He can move his queen to c7, but if he does, he falls into trap number 1, so that doesn't work and black will lose a minor piece or the queen. The second possibility, if he still wants to hold on to his minor piece, is queen to b4, but then the simple a3 forces the queen out of the defense and it has to retreat to d6, and all white's pieces are nicely protected, and white can now simply capture the bishop on c3. So developing the queen to a5 in order to attack the c3 pawn doesn't work either. But what if black plays something completely different? So how are we supposed to continue our attack then? So let's say that bishop d7 is played, so black leaves the queen on d8, where it does a great job on guarding the knight on f6, which will become under attack with a sacrifice after we kick the bishop back. So let's say bishop d7 is played instead. So how should white continue then? So once again we play f4 in order to kick the bishop back. That's always the first part of the strategy, and the bishop retreats because it can't capture now, because it simply lose bishop against pawn. Again c4, opening up the diagonals, and now there's a second trap that black can fall into, second type of trap, and that's the e3 pawn is now a backwards pawn with the gain of tempo, with a check perhaps on the king on g1. So if queen d6 is played, I personally like to continue with king to h1, like if I was admitting defeat, getting out of the pin and abandoning the e3 pawn. But white still has the winning position, because after queen takes, rook to f3 automatically protects the bishop and attacks the queen, and again we're seeing every piece being protected. So the queen has to retreat, white once again has a great attack with bishop takes knight, and black can choose to beat down a minor piece, or if he recaptures we get attacks like rook to g3 check, king h8, and then queen h5 with a mate threat on h7, forcing pawn to f5 to block the bishop. Then a battery on the h-file, and if the king tries to flee you can simply push him back with queen to h6. King retreats and mate. So that's another trap that black can fall into, with thinking that he can gain pawn advantage by attacking a backward pawn. So those are the traps you can set out and the tactics you can use. I'd like to look at one more variation, and that's if a non-queen moving move is played, but not something like bishop moves, but let's say pawn to a6, which I've seen in master play against me and which I've seen by strong chess engines. So if white exchanges, we can see that the b file is completely open and the bishop is at this point unprotected. So once again f4. Now white does have a gain in tempo. Bishop retreats, again c4, opening up the diagonals. But now if queen b6 is played, we can no longer flee with our king to h1, because the bishop on b2 is under attack. And black has a fork against the pawn on e3 and the bishop on b2. So we need to play something else, and that's, let's say, if you try to exchange bishop takes knight in order to save the bishop from being lost. Black still has the attack on the pawn, so queen takes pawn check, king h1, and queen takes bishop. So white has to be careful now. This can't be played. So instead white must play bishop to d4. So this not only saves the bishop but counterattacks on the queen. And now black is having some problems because of if the queen flees from the attack of the bishop, now white can do an exchange sack on f6. Pawn recaptures, or black must be down a minor piece, and then queen to g4 check, king h8, and queen h4 with a mate threat on h7. If f5 once again to block, queen f6, king g8, and then a rook lift with a winning attack for white. If instead queen doesn't flee to b7 or any other square, and black enforces his attack with bishop to c5, then white should continue with bishop takes knight, ignoring the check with tempo. So if black takes, the king can flee, and now it's the bishop on e3, so there's no longer an attack on the bishop on d3 by any queen. So we've lost the pawn for a winning attack. For if black tries to recapture his minor piece, white can continue with the classical bishop sacrifice on h7. And if king takes, we get queen h5 check, king g7, queen g4. That's important to force the king back to the h file. King h7, and then we have our rook lift. And then black needs to do some desperation moves, but still white has to play accurately. So bishop takes f4, which should be ignored. Rook h3 check, and now black can block with his bishop. Now white can continue with a battery on the h file, but that's not best. Better is to overload the bishop and play queen f4. If queen e3 to come into the defense, white can still capture on e3. King moves, queen takes, rook e8 to create escape for the king, but mate to 1 after queen h8. So those are some tactics and ideas in this type of call system. I've used it in master play with great success, and it's the system I used to win against the 10th edition Chessmaster that you can find on YouTube as well. So I hope you enjoyed the vid and it gives you some insight in the systems and the traps and tactics used. And thanks for watching, and have a great evening.